$1 million. Free to play. You just need to survive. It's the Fanatics NFL Survivor Pool. Pick one team to win each week. Get it right, move on. Get it wrong, you're out. The last fan standing take home a guaranteed $1 million cash prize. And for every player who joins, we add $1 to the pot, up to $10 million. The Fanatics NFL Survivor Pool. Play free on the Fanatics app. App access open to all. Must be 21 plus and joined by 9/8 to play. No purchase necessary. U.S. only. Void where prohibited. Subject to complete terms. See fanatics.com/game rules.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Defense Department now issuing a warning after they say 2 Venezuelan military aircraft flew near a U.S. Navy destroyer in the Caribbean. Quote, the cartel running Venezuela is strongly advised not to pursue any further effort to obstruct, deter, or interfere with counter-narcotics and counter-terror operations carried out by the U.S. military. The Pentagon has also reportedly deployed 10 F-35 fighter jets to Puerto Rico to conduct anti-cartel operations. These developments come after the U.S. military struck a boat that was carrying drugs from Venezuela earlier this week, killing 11 suspected Tren de Aragua members in the Caribbean Sea.
Yes, my friends, it is Friday, and this is the It's Already Friday Again edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Welcome. That development, of course, following the attack by U.S., the successful attack launched by U.S. military on a shipment of drugs headed to the United States traced from the shores of Venezuela. And Marco Rubio was asked about that. We will get to that. In the news. Also today, the attacks on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. continue unabated. In fact, there's a story in the Hills, Republicans, and they point to at least 2 in the article that I can recall, the senator from Wyoming, Brasso, and the other, both doctors, an orthopedic doctor from Wyoming, and of course Bill Cassidy, no great fan of Donald Trump, by the way, from Louisiana. Both are Republicans in the Senate, apparently unhappy with Robert Kennedy Jr. And some of this stuff I find it a little hard to follow. Maybe it's time I talk to Dr. Mikulaskin, but one of the things that just baffles me. We've had a country where healthcare costs are soaring out of control. Despite what Obama promised, that the all of a sudden we were going to see a curve, and you could keep your doctors that you liked way back when. Of course, those doctors have long since been consigned to the ash heap of political lie history. But the cost curve for healthcare was supposed to go down. Instead, it's still soaring out of control. I saw today, and maybe if I'll have time to play it tomorrow, I didn't even include it on the soundbite roster for today because it was too long. I saw today a really interesting story from 2006. Almost when you think about it, almost 20 years ago. From Sharyl Attkisson, back when she was employed in the mainstream press before they got tired of her telling the truth about things. And the report that Sharyl Attkisson did was about the flu shots and how the flu shots had been growing astronomically, the number of flu shots given to elderly people in America. And, she had all the visuals with it, just large numbers of seniors every year convinced, oh, man, we got to take the flu shot. We got to take the flu shot. And so those numbers were going up. And Cheryl Atkinson back then made the point, well, the numbers of people taking the shot have risen astronomically. But you know what else has risen? The number of elderly people who die of the flu. The numbers should be going down. With all those people taking the flu shot that are elderly, they're warned every year, gotta take the flu shot. Because, it affects the elderly. Elderly, hardest hit. And yet, the elderly were still dying in massive numbers. It didn't work. And so researchers were admitting something's wrong here. Maybe tomorrow, like I said, we'll play that report. Because we have a little bit more time on Saturdays. This is the fastest hour in American media. So you have these questions. And then you have these questions that are being raised in the mainstream press, obviously. They're all trying to portray Kennedy as being some kind of nut. He's a nutter. He wants absolutely wild things. I mean, I want to move on to some of these other areas that we're talking about, like the drugs and, of course, immigration. Largest immigration raid in years on a manufacturing plant today, a Hyundai plant under construction. 450 illegal immigrants nabbed. The South Korean government got involved. It's a Hyundai plant, South Korean car, and they're little. But anyway, getting back to this business here. The mainstream press obviously has it in for Kennedy. They never liked the fact that he endorsed President Trump and brought a lot of people with him, and it may have been one of the turning points of the Trump campaign. The Kennedy family, of course, hates many members of the family, their own cousin in some cases, nephew. It's just he's not walking the Democrat Party line, and so there's a lot of hatred that's been expressed for this family member because he is standing with his beliefs. You listen to people like I saw, didn't put this one in sound bites either, Senator Mark Warnock say, oh, Kennedy, he's just out for his own radical ideology. He doesn't really care about people. Well, what is his radical ideology? What exactly is it? One of the things that Kennedy pointed out is about the number of course, he's been talking about autism. And how autism years ago was a 1 in 100,000. 1 in 100,000 children were struck with autism. Today, it's 1 in 10. So it's gone from 1 in every 100,000 children to now a 10th. 1 in 10. Autism. And he's trying to crack the code. He wants to know what's going on. What's wrong with wanting to know what's going on? In fact, he was taking to account, we have this exchange by Senator Tina Smith. This was yesterday. That's cut 14. And let's just briefly listen to that exchange.
In the days after the tragic shooting at Annunciation Catholic School in my home state of Minnesota, you went on Fox News blaming school shootings on antidepressants. You have no evidence of that because you have no evidence of a connection. And you want to talk about...
You're just saying something. You're just making stuff up.
This is what you say, right? Secretary Kennedy, when someone presents you with information that does not fit...
I did not blame that shooting. I have no idea whether... I have no idea, and I never said that. You're making it up. You're twisting. Yeah, you are.
Secretary
you are being
Kennedy,
dishonest right now.
If you want to talk about mental health and gun violence in this country... If you want to talk about mental health and gun violence in this country, we should be talking about that, because that's what the parents of Annunciation School
You don't want to talk. You want to harangue, and you want to you want to have partisan politics.
That is
I want to actually solve these problems.
Secretary Kennedy, what the Trump administration is doing.
Yeah, wow. I had to look. I said, okay, this is easy enough to track down. Did he say it or did he not? I found the few news stories. I pulled the one for this purpose from Axios. They're big in the Washington, D.C. political mindset. RFK Jr. renews attack on antidepressants after church shooting. Health and Human Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. claimed without evidence that antidepressants could have contributed to the mass shooting in Minnesota after an attacker opened fire. Blah, 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 blah. He was on Fox News, and what he said was, we're launching studies on the potential contribution of some of the selective serotonin reuptake inhibited drugs and some of the other psychiatric drugs that might be contributing to violence. Might be. He never blamed them and said these were responsible. He said they're looking at some things that might have a causal effect. So the way that it is being twisted, even in this story, claimed without evidence that antidepressants could have. He's saying we're taking a look at stuff. Now, may I ask any of you, do we know whether there is a relationship between all these shootings? We know something's wrong, folks. Come on, damn it. We know something's wrong. I mentioned drugs the other day on the air. We know. And having used some of these drugs that these kids are using for transgender, for quote-unquote gender affirmation. These are very powerful drugs. What's wrong with looking at it? What's wrong? We're taking a look at it. Anybody else got any ideas? We shouldn't be looking at it. We shouldn't be trying to find it out. What's going on? Let's take a break here. I want to get one or two or more of these others in here. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen was on with CNN, and I mean he did an outstanding job with that Casey, whatever her name is, Hunt. Again, with more of this fear mongering over Kennedy, but we've got some other stuff to cover too. So let's do this. James Golden, Snerdley, keep it right here. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden Snerdley with you here. All right, very quickly, I want to talk about this. I mentioned it. Brasso, Senator from Brasso, John Brasso, pointed out, he's an orthopedic surgeon. I support vaccines. I'm a doctor. Vaccines work. Senator, and then he has concern that Kennedy is not following through on his upholding the highest standards for vaccines. He said, he points to the national measles outbreak and questions raised by the director there that was let go, Susan Monarez. And Americans don't know who to rely on, he says. If we're going to make America healthy again, we can't allow public health to be undermined. Senator, it already has been undermined. The entire COVID fiasco undermined American health. Some of the institutions, as Kennedy is pointing out, have presided over America becoming one of the most unhealthy nations in the world. And so what he's trying to do is trying to at least refresh these agencies that have presided over America sinking in. And you know who he's getting pushed back a lot from? People who, coincidentally or not, get large campaign donations from Big Pharma, including some senators I like for their stances, like Senator Kennedy of Louisiana. He's been pretty. Guess what? They line his pockets with campaign contributions, too. So you're right. In one aspect, Americans don't know who to count on because we don't know who's been bought and paid for. And Kennedy's trying to help the American people find that out. We'll have more. Don't go away, whatever you do.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It was very hard to get police officers. Now the departments are loaded up. Everyone wants
this is
to be
live,
a policeman
folks.
or woman. So it's been a great thing. General,
President Trump speaking now.
Sir, as you said, serving our nation is an incredible gift that we give, and the reward on that gift pays back exponentially year over year. And I think the young people of America are seeing the importance of service, and whether it's in any of our armed services or in local police, fire, or rescue, service is an important thing that I personally encourage, and I know everyone else in government service sees that same reward.
And Peter, on recruitment, what do you think?
I was down at Fort Benning.
All right, they started talking initially about the Department of Wawa, and that has become a huge deal, whether to rename the Department of Defense, like we have to be, or rather the more, how shall we say, muscular Department of Wawa. Princess Di and Lady Benedict have been talking about it. Princess Di has a brilliant idea. She says it should actually be named the Department of FAFO. Just name it Department of FAFO. Which I think, well, Carlos, you know what that means. F around and find out. The Department of FAFO. I love that. Department of FAFO. So anyway, let's play the music we were going to play. I was looking forward to hearing it coming back. Because we rarely play this. Birthday today for British songwriter and singer, folk rock musician, the genre folk rock, Al Stewart. And I haven't heard this in so long. I just love this song. 1976. The album went platinum. He was a part of the lineup in the initial Glastonbury Festival. That was back in 1970. It's Friday. The year of the cat. James Golden is Snerdley with you here. Okay. We got to get some of these sound bites in here. Department of Wawa. Department of Fafo. Okay, Chuck Schumer trying to sound tough. We got to get this in before we go. Let's just start it. Here's Chucky Schumer. He's ticked off because some wind group that's building all these wind things out in the ocean is Trump said, no, we're not doing it. And Chuck Schumer's mad. And so Chuck, you had this to say.
I spoke to Revolution Wind this morning. They're building a big offshore wind project off the coast of Rhode Island. And they're suing Donald Trump because he shut them down for no reason. This project is employing hundreds of people. It's 80% finished. And Donald Trump gets his toadies in the Interior Department to say, you got to shut it down and give them no reason. Why? Because Donald Trump has a fucking whim in his head. He doesn't like offshore wind because someone built an offshore wind facility off his golf course in Scotland, and he didn't like the way the windmills look. He sued and lost, and now he's taking it out on all Americans because this is going to raise our electricity prices.
Oh, we didn't catch the F word in that. He F-bombed in there because Donald Trump is effing blah, 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 blah. I highlighted that so we would get that bad word out of there. Well, Chuck Schumer is dropping the F-bombs. Okay. Now, I mentioned this deal of the raid. Somebody asked, one of these reporters asked Marco Rubio about the Venezuelan raid. Rubio took him to school. Cut 4. I love the way Marco Rubio is taking these reporters to school. This is what that sounded like.
Mr. Secretary, when it comes to the drug trade, Venezuela is not the most problematic country, but it is a major U.S. adversary. Should we expect smugglers coming from friendly U.S. allied nations like Mexico and Ecuador to also face unilateral execution from U.S. forces? And if so, will the administration seek authorization for the use of military force?
No, you're wrong in your question. Number one, Venezuela is a major source, and the reason why is the following. And I've seen a lot of this reporting, and it's fake reporting, and I'll tell you why. It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the drug trade. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about. Maduro is indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. That means the Southern District of New York presented the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury indicted him. And then a superseding indictment came out that was unsealed about a year and a half ago that specifically detailed Maduro's actions. So number one, let there be no doubt, Nicolas Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice. Number two, for cooperative governments, there's no need, because those governments are going to help us identify him. They're going to help us identify him. Now, they're going to help us find these people and blow them up, if that's what it takes. They're going to help us with it. I don't know if you saw yesterday, Trinidad, a country that has suffered greatly from all these drugs coming out of Venezuela, they were congratulating us for it. They thought it was a great thing because they've suffered from it. So we're going to continue to hunt for, like we always have, but this time we're not just going to hunt for drug dealers with the little fast boats and say, oh, let's try to arrest them. No, the president has said he wants to wage war on these groups because they've been waging war on us for 30 years and no one has responded. But there's no need to do that in many cases with the friendly governments, because the friendly governments are going to help us. They may do it themselves, and we'll help them do it. La pregunta fue sobre si los Estados Unidos.
Boom! Ha! And so, by the way, guys, this is war. Department of FAFO at work. Okay, now, I got another one. This is 3 minutes and 7 seconds. I cannot take the time, but folks, I'm going to explain it, and if we have time, we will play it tomorrow. Will Cain, who's doing some great work over there on Fox, Will Cain was talking with the former Sinaloa cartel kingpin, Jay Flores, and this guy, in this 3 minutes and 7 conversation, documents how over a 10-year period, when he was with the cartel, they were shipping they were shipping billions of dollars from here into Mexico, and they never got caught with it. Most of the one-way traffic going from here into these massive semi-trucks full of American currency from the drug trade. And that's what he was talking about on there. If we have time, we'll play that tomorrow when we have time. All right, cut 6. We'll listen to as much as we can. Big story today when you opened up your eyes. Many of you saw this story, and here's how it went.
Massive ICE raid at a Hyundai plant in Georgia. Officials say roughly 450 undocumented migrants were apprehended. Now, Thursday's raid was carried out by multiple state and federal law enforcement agencies, including ICE, the FBI, and the Georgia State Patrol. I want to bring in CNN's Isabel Rosales, who's been monitoring this. So, Isabel, what is the latest this morning?
Omar, good morning. With more than 450 people apprehended, this marks what appears to be one of the largest ICE raids at a single site in the 22-year history of this agency. Now, here's what we know. This happened at the Hyundai Meta plant site. This is in Ella Bell, Georgia. This is just 25 miles or so west of Savannah. And according to the Associated Press, this raid stopped construction of this factory that's being built to produce batteries for electric vehicles. This same site, this same project, this was touted by Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp, who called it the largest economic development site.
Okay, there you have it. There was a big raid, the biggest raid in 22 years of the agency. And that now Trump is waging war on the electric vehicle battery makers. I wonder how we're supposed to have batteries for cars if Trump is waging war and arresting the illegal immigrants that are making the plant that's going to make the EV batteries. What does this say?
Okay. J.B. Pritzker's ticked off. Let's start with cut 8. Here's the big deal that's happening as we speak.
Well, it appears that they are amassing the ICE officers at the
folks.
Great Lakes Naval Base, along with some military vehicles. It's been reported that there are about 300 of those officers that are planning on coming in and doing what they did in Los Angeles, which is terrorize the neighborhoods and cause mayhem. They're hoping in the end...
Stop it right there. Stop. This damned governor has the nerve to say this about federal ICE agents, federal law enforcement. Oh, there are about 300 of them. They're massing at the naval base. They're preparing to do what they did in Los Angeles, which is to terrorize people and cause all kind of mayhem. This is the way that this governor is talking about law enforcement people. They're amassing to terrorize the people. I tell you. And cut 7 very quickly. And this is a follow-up to that exchange.
If National Guard or other military troops are deployed to the city of Chicago, immediately go to court. So that's going to be our first line of defense, is getting a court to issue a TRO or other injunction against that activity.
And here's the reason why I guess Pritzker and so many Democrats, cut 11, why so many Democrats are opposed to rounding up illegal immigrants, opposed to terrorizing the illegal immigrant community, because that's what he's saying. They're terrorizing all of it. There's a reason. There's another Maryland man in the news. There's another Maryland man that Democrats can wave and put up as their new national hero, just like they put up Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Cut 11. Here is the latest on the new Maryland man, Democrat hero.
Georges County Police and Maryland State Police say the body that was found off of Route 50 in Annapolis does belong to 19-year-old Dakara Thompson. They have arrested 35-year-old Hugo Hernandez Mendez of Bowie and charged him with her murder. Investigators say Hernandez Mendez is in the country illegally and an ICE detainer was issued for him yesterday.
Oh, yeah. There's a story I'm holding for tomorrow. Again, it's one of these long sound bites about another one of these men and what they've been doing to underage American girls. We'll deal with that tomorrow. Meanwhile, out in Missouri, cut 10. This happened, St. Charles, Missouri. News report there from an NBC local station.
Tonight, a St. Charles buffet is shut down after federal agents raided the restaurant and a nearby home.
And today we learned 2 people were charged in connection to this. Justina Coronel joins us from the newsroom to share details in this case. Justina.
Well, Mike and Kelly, just 24 hours ago, a federal grand jury indicted 2 people from St. Charles County. Both are charged for bringing in and harboring immigrants who came here illegally. Now, this is after federal agents raided Golden Apple Buffet in St. Charles and a home about 10 minutes away in St. Peters.
You got a drone out with a drone?
In this video, you can see FBI agents armed with guns go inside the St. Peters home on Park Charles Boulevard South Tuesday morning. That's an agent screaming, "Hands up," in Spanish. A witness who took this video said agents arrested 20 people. No one answered at the door Thursday morning. Then an hour later, 5 on your side learned 56-year-old Gao Ling Yi and Di Zheng Yi were charged for bringing in and harboring immigrants living here undocumented. Defendant Gao Ling Yi is also the manager of Golden Apple Buffet in St. Charles. One witness said a group of employees would come to work in a van, and the buffet just had its grand opening in May, but it's now closed. The FBI confirms they were at the restaurant on Tuesday.
All the charges are about the employer having hired persons who were not legal to work in the United States, having knowingly done it, and in fact, provided them a place to live in and transportation to go back and forth.
Deliberately breaking the law. The Department of FAFO Immigration, FAFO ICE, jumped in on that. Okay, I mentioned earlier, you heard Barrasso talking about how Kennedy, blah, 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 look at the measles. We got to get this one in. Cassie Hunt, there's a long one which I'm going to play tomorrow on autism, but Mark Wayne Mullen was on with her. Cut 16. Listen to this. Very quickly, he torches this properly.
Is what Bobby's doing is questioning science.
But you're taking
used to it was okay.
You're
going to
risk
science.
Kids dying of measles.
We're not going to die. We're not taking the risk of measles. We're not anti.
More kids have died of measles in this country this year than in decades.
Well, if you want to get into that, we can talk about the open to southern border and what caused that. Because you had an inflation over 20 million people that came over illegally underneath the Biden administration that wasn't vaccinated. We're not talking about measles outbreaks from kids that were born and raised here inside the United States. We're talking about ones that were brought over here illegally, and you can make that connection. And there's no one can argue that.
Okay.
Funny that never gets pointed out. All these senators yelling at Robert Kennedy, "I'm the measles." How do we get all this uptick in diseases like measles? How did we get them? Okay, we got to take a break. Betsy McCoy, boy, she was on fire last night on CNN with Mondani, and we were waiting to see whether we were going to interrupt this precious broadcast if there was an announcement coming from Washington, D.C., if Mayor Adams is going to become a diplomat, if they're going to ship him out to Saudi Arabia to represent, or some other country, to represent the United States of America, and thereby forego his campaign for the mayor, his re-election bid to become the next mayor of New York. We haven't heard. Now, the last time, you might remember the last time that Eric Adams showed up at the White House, what happened? Remember what happened the last time Eric Adams showed up at the White House?
Help was not on the way.
Help was not on the way. It was... Mr. Adams, let us have your phones. No, Mr. Give us everything. Mr. Adams, no. You tell your security people, stand back. We want your phones. We want your iPads. We want all your communications. Oh, yeah, that appointment you had with Joe, you better come back to New York. We're busting down the doors of your aides looking for evidence. So hopefully this trip for the White House to Adams to see whether he has a diplomatic future will be an easier go. So we'll be back fastest hour. Snerdley, Goldman, yeah.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, so in 2017, on this day, Rick Stevens passed away. He was the Tower Power lead singer when they first broke out of the scene. He went to jail for 36 years. He shot 3 people to death. But after 36 years, he was released. He passed away at age 77 on this day in 2017. Also, we leave you today with the music of a great drummer. Also vocalist, that's him doing the lead vocals. Neil Young's song, you know it. Buddy Miles, who is so under-recognized. He was a drummer with the Ink Spots of all, Wilson Pickett, Santana, Electric Flag, and Jimi Hendrix. That's Buddy Miles on the Band of Gypsies album, as well as Electric Ladyland and The Cry of Love. He was young when he passed away in 2008, 60 years old. But this is from one of his solo albums. Of course, he did well. He had Them Changes was another big one for Buddy Miles. But this, one of my favorites, this cover of Down by the River. All right, my friends, we got to leave. James Golden, Snerdley. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your family, your loved ones. Love and gratitude for your being here, allowing me to be with you. God willing, back in the morning, and hope you are here too. Looking forward to hearing from Prince Di, America's small caffeinated mom, Lizzie Radabali, everybody. In the meantime, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?